Mama never bought a single carton of buttermilk in her life. She made it the way her mother had, from one cow and the turning of a churn, and when we buried her in 1991, I understood that most of what she knew about that one humble jug had gone into the ground with her. She never wrote a word of it down. Nobody like her ever did. The county home demonstration ladies and the town doctors told her what they told every mountain woman. Her sour milk and her old ways were poor folks' habits, unclean, unscientific. Pour it out, buy the tin, buy the packet. But here's the turn. Nearly everything they shamed her for, the folks in the white coats have quietly circled back and admitted she had right all along. Number 12 is something she sprayed on her squash that a scientist proved beats a store-bought fungicide. Number 8 is a beauty secret they now sell in a glass bottle for $40. And number 1, she'd laugh to hear me call it a trick at all. So count them down with me. 26 things one mountain grandmother did with a jug of buttermilk that the science took a lifetime to catch up to. She knew first. Number 26, the biscuit that rose without a tin of baking powder. Every biscuit Mama pulled from that oven got its lift from 2 things only, a spoon of soda and a jug of buttermilk gone good and sour. The advertisement swore packaged powder was more modern than a poor woman's clabber. But here's what her hands knew and the label didn't. The sour in buttermilk is lactic acid, and the moment it meets the soda, the two throw off gas that pushes the biscuit up. That same acid loosens the flour so the crumb bakes tender instead of tough. Every food chemist now says the same, so here's how you do it. A 1/4 teaspoon of soda to a cup of your sourest buttermilk, mixed barely, run to a hot oven before the gas floats away. Number 25, cornbread in a screaming skillet. Mama's cornbread only met a cast iron pan heated till the grease in it was near smoking. She poured the batter in and it hollered. The home economists called heating an empty pan a reckless waste. But the buttermilk is half the trick. Its acid works with the soda to lift the coarse meal and soften a crumb that would otherwise bake up dry. Hit a screaming pan and the crust sets in a heartbeat, brown and crisp. So here's how you do it. Heat your greased iron in the oven, stir soda into the batter, and pour it in hot. If it doesn't sizzle, your pan wasn't ready. Number 24, flapjacks light as a rumor. Mama's flapjacks came off the griddle, tall and tender, and store milk never matched them. Folks reached for the boxed mix and wondered why theirs came out flat. The buttermilk is the difference. The sour hits the soda and blows the batter full of bubbles, and the acid keeps the flour from turning to rubber. So here's how you do it. Don't beat the batter smooth. Leave it lumpy and cook them the minute it's mixed while it's still bubbling. Beat it too long or let it stand and you've whipped the life out of it. Number 23, slick dumplings rolled thin as paper. When Mama made chicken and dumplings, she rolled the dough flat and slick, and it never cooked up rubbery. The trick was buttermilk in the dough. Its acid relaxes the flour so the dough rolls easy and cooks up soft and slippery, where plain water gives you leather. So here's how you do it. Work buttermilk into your flour, let the dough rest, roll it thin, cut it in strips, and drop them into simmering broth. Thin and slick is the point. Number 22, a cake so tender it near fell apart. Every layer cake and red velvet Mama baked had buttermilk in the bowl, and the crumb came out fine and moist where plain milk goes coarse. The acid does 2 jobs. It feeds the soda for lift and softens the flour for that melting texture. The fancy bakers know it now, down to the chemistry. So here's how you do it. Add your buttermilk a little at a time, turning it with the dry so the batter never breaks. And use the soured jug on purpose. The sharper it is, the tenderer that cake. Number 21. Mashed potatoes with a tang. Mama finished her mashed potatoes with buttermilk instead of sweet milk, and they came out creamy with a brightness that cut the heaviness. Nobody could name what made hers better. It's that gentle sour lifting the dish. So here's how you do it. Warm the buttermilk a little and fold it in at the very end, off the heat. Boil it hard and it curdles. Slip it in warm and you get all the cream and all the tang. Number 20. The pie you built from nothing. In the lean years, when there was no fruit for a pie, Mama made one from what she always had. Buttermilk, sugar, eggs, a lump of butter, a spoon of flour. They called it a desperation pie, a poor woman's dessert, like it was something to be ashamed of. But that buttermilk sets into a custard as silky as anything money can buy. It's sour, balancing the sugar so it's rich and never cloying. So here's how you do it. Whisk buttermilk, sugar, eggs, and melted butter with a little flour. Pour it into a single crust and bake it slow. Desperation never tasted so good. Number 19. Never pour out a jug gone sharp. Here's the one that turns everybody's thinking upside down. When buttermilk went sour in the back of the icebox, most folks poured it out. Mama's eyes lit up because that was the good stuff. The baking powder companies had sold 2 generations on the idea that sour milk was ruined. They had it backwards. The more sour the jug, the more lactic acid it holds, and that acid is the engine under everything on this list. More lift with the soda. More tenderness in the crumb. It sits down around 4.5 on the acid scale, sharp enough for real chemistry. So here's how you do it. The sharper your buttermilk, the better it bakes. Sour is not spoiled. Sour is ready. Number 18. Fried chicken sleeping in buttermilk overnight. No piece of chicken hit Mama's hot grease without first sleeping a night in a bowl of buttermilk. The fry mix folks called soaking a fussy waste of time, but there's more sense in that bowl than in any shortcut. The mild acid loosens the muscle just enough to tenderize, without turning the meat to mush the way harsh vinegar would. And the milk clings, so the flour grabs hold and fries into a crust that stays put. Food scientists back every word of it. So here's how you do it. Soak your chicken in buttermilk overnight in the icebox. And here's the part folks miss. Don't rinse it. Dredge it wet, straight from the jug, so the coating sticks. Number 17. Turning a tough old hen tender. When the bird was an old laying hen past her prime, stringy and tough, Mama didn't throw her out. She soaked her in buttermilk. The acid works slow and deep, breaking that toughness down, while a little salt carries flavor through, and the meat holds its moisture instead of drying to a string. So here's how you do it. Sink the whole hen in buttermilk overnight. Pat her dry and roast. What would have been a chewy supper falls off the bone. Number 16. Taking the wild out of wild meat. Venison, squirrel, rabbit, whatever the men brought off the ridge, went into buttermilk before the pan. Strong game has a taste that turns a lot of stomachs, and Mama knew the buttermilk would tame it. The acid tenderizes the tough muscle of a hard-run animal, and the milk fat and proteins grab the gamey compounds and carry them off, leaving the meat mild. So here's how you do it. Soak your game in buttermilk a full day in the cold. For a strong piece, pour off that first jug and give it fresh. It draws the wildness out. Number 15. Washing the mud out of a catfish. Pull a catfish from a warm pond, and it can taste like the bottom it came from, muddy and earthy. Mama soaked those fish in buttermilk and served them sweet and clean. Here's where the science gets specific. That muddy taste has a name, a compound called geosmin. The fish soaks up from the algae in still water, and geosmin comes apart in acid. So the lactic acid in that buttermilk is literally taking apart the thing that makes the fish taste like a pond. So here's how you do it. Cut away the dark line down the side. Soak the fillets in buttermilk from a half hour to overnight, then dredge and fry, clean as spring water. Number 14. Making liver a body could eat. Liver has a metallic, bitter edge that turns children against it for life. So before Mama fried it, it sat in a bowl of buttermilk. The milk mellows that metallic taste while the acid tenderizes, and it comes out mild and soft instead of sharp and grainy. So here's how you do it. Soak your liver in buttermilk an hour or two, no longer, or it goes to mush. Drain, season, and sear it quick. Overcook liver and it's ruined, buttermilk or no. Number 13. Drawing the salt out of the ham. A country ham cured hard in salt to last the year could come out too salty to eat straight. Mama's fix was to soak the slices in buttermilk before the skillet. The salt pulls out of the meat and into the milk, and the buttermilk softens the slice and lends back a faint sweetness. So here's how you do it. Lay your ham slices in buttermilk a few hours, or overnight for a hard-cured piece. Then rinse and pat dry. You're not after bland. You're after just right. Number 12. Now here's where Mama's buttermilk walked out of the kitchen and into the garden. When a white powdery mildew crept across her squash and her roses, she never reached for a poison. She thinned buttermilk with water and sprayed it on the leaves. The town gardeners figured she'd lost her mind. Then, in 1999, a scientist named Bettiol put it to the test on zucchini and measured the result. A simple milk spray knocked that mildew back by 90%, working as well as the manufactured fungicides on the shelf. In the sun, the milk proteins turn on the fungus and burn it off the leaf. So here's how you do it. 1 part buttermilk to 9 parts water, sprayed on the leaves on a dry, sunny day, once a week. Grandma's mildew cure, proven in a laboratory. Number 11. The slop bucket that was really medicine. Whatever buttermilk and clabber the family didn't drink went out to the hogs, the chickens, and the calves. The feed store men were glad to sell you a sack instead, but that leftover sour milk did more than fill a trough. It's alive with the same good bacteria we now pay for in a pill and call probiotics. It put weight on calves, kept the scours away, and gave laying hens the protein to keep their feathers and their eggs coming. So here's how you do it. If you keep animals, don't pour sour milk out. Pour your clabber to the chickens. What looked like slop was a tonic the barnyard thrived on. Number 10. Lifting a stain nothing else would touch. Ink on a good shirt, berry on a Sunday dress, a rust spot on the linens. Mama soaked the cloth in buttermilk. A home guide from 1944 says it plain. Fresh ink gives way to buttermilk. The acid loosens the pigment's grip. The milk fat dissolves the oil in the ink, and the stain washes free where plain soap would set it forever. So here's how you do it. Soak the fresh stain in buttermilk a half hour, or overnight for a stubborn one, then launder as usual. Fresh is the word. Let a stain dry and set, and even buttermilk has met its match. Number 9. The cure for a bad sunburn, out of the icebox. After a hard day in the sun, Mama laid a cloth soaked in cool buttermilk over the burn. This one's old, older than she was. The Old Farmer's Almanac printed it in 1898, calling buttermilk a simple and harmless remedy for sunburn. The cool milk soothes the heat, the proteins lay a film over the raw skin, and the same lactic acid gently sloughs the damaged surface. So here's how you do it. Soak a soft cloth in cold buttermilk, lay it over the burn 10 or 15 minutes, rinse, and follow with something to moisten the skin. 100 years before the drugstore aisle, she had the cure in a jug. Number 8. The beauty secret they now bottle and sell. Mama washed her face and hands with buttermilk to keep the skin soft, an old trick that runs back to queens bathing in soured milk. And this is the one the science has landed on hardest. The lactic acid in buttermilk is exactly what the cosmetic counter calls an alpha hydroxy acid, the same thing they put in the little bottles that cost the earth. It dissolves the glue holding dull, dead skin in place, so fresh skin comes up underneath, and it draws in moisture too. It's among the gentlest of them all. So here's how you do it. Smooth buttermilk over clean skin, leave it 10 or 15 minutes and rinse. What she did with a jug, they now sell you by the ounce. Number 7. Milk for the folks who couldn't drink milk. There were always people who couldn't take a glass of sweet milk without their stomach turning. Yet those same folks could drink buttermilk and clabber all day. Mama never knew the word for why. We do now. When the bacteria sour the milk, they eat up most of the milk sugar, the lactose that gives a sensitive body such grief, and leave the enzyme behind to handle the rest. So here's how you do it. If sweet milk sits heavy on you, a little cultured buttermilk may go down easy where the fresh never could. She fed people milk their own bodies had refused for years. Number 6. Raising bread before there was a packet to buy. Long before anybody in these hills could buy an envelope of yeast, Mama's people kept bread rising with clabber and buttermilk. The live cultures give a starter a head start. It goes bubbly and ready to bake in 3 or 4 days, where wild-caught yeast takes a week or more, and it lends the bread a soft, tangy sweetness. So here's how you do it. Stir a few spoons of live buttermilk into flour and water in a glass jar. Feed it each day, and watch it wake up. She raised her bread on what the cow gave free. Number 5. Taking the bite out of a raw onion. When a raw onion was too sharp for the table, Mama soaked the slices in buttermilk before serving. That mild acid neutralizes the harsh sulfur that makes an onion bite back and burn your eyes, and what comes out is mellow and near sweet, all onion flavor and none of the sting. So here's how you do it. Slice your onion thin, let it sit in buttermilk 15 or 20 minutes, drain, and lay it on your sandwich or salad. Sharp goes in, sweet comes out. Number 4. Ice cream with a different soul. When there was buttermilk to spare in the warm months, Mama sweetened it, folded in whatever fruit was ripe, and froze it into a sherbet. That sour is what makes it sing. It cuts the sugar so the sherbet lands bright and clean, where plain cream sits heavy on your tongue. So here's how you do it. Sweeten your buttermilk, stir in crushed fruit or a little vanilla, and churn it or freeze it. It's about the most refreshing frozen thing you'll ever taste, and hardly a soul under 60 has had it. Number 3. A glass a day to settle the whole works. Mama drank a glass of buttermilk most every day and swore it settled her stomach and kept her regular. Turns out she was ahead of the doctors by a good while. Back in 1907, a Nobel-winning scientist named Mechnikov looked at the long-lived peasants of Bulgaria and pinned their years on the very same soured milk bacteria in Mama's jug. The research since has tied fermented milk like hers to a healthier gut and easier digestion. So here's how you do it. A daily glass of live culture buttermilk is about as wholesome a habit as there is. She was taking probiotics before the word was invented, straight from a mason jar. Number 2. A whole supper crumbled into a glass. The plainest meal Mama's people ever sat down to, and one hardly anybody alive has tasted. Cold cornbread crumbled into a tall glass, buttermilk poured over, eaten slow with a spoon. The nutrition folks called it what poor mountain people ate for want of anything better. But listen to what was hiding in that glass. Cornbread by itself is missing one of the building blocks your body has to have. And the buttermilk carries that exact missing piece and pours it back in. Together the two make a complete protein, a full meal that holds a body till morning, where cornbread alone leaves you hollow by dark. Nobody in that kitchen had heard the word protein. They just knew it kept you. So here's how you do it. Crumble cold cornbread into a glass of buttermilk and eat it with a spoon. My own grandchildren think it's the saddest supper they ever saw. They're wrong. It's a whole meal for pennies, and it kept a mountain fed. Number 1. She never bought it. She made it. And here at the end is the one Mama would laugh to hear called a trick at all, because to her it was just a Tuesday. She never once bought a jug of buttermilk. She made her own. She let the cream sour, worked the churn till the butter came, and what was left behind, thin and pale and tangy, was the buttermilk that did every single thing on this list. Down in the spring house over the cold running water, that was her whole world, and it cost her nothing but the knowing. The companies needed you to forget this one most of all, because a woman who could sour her own milk didn't need their powder, their packet, or their bottled cream. In 1944, this country milked 25 million cows, and near every farm had its own. Within one lifetime, almost all of them were gone, and the buttermilk went with them, and so did the hands that knew what to do with it. That's the truth under all 26 of these. She could hand you the recipe. She could never hand you the hands that knew the moment the churn came right, or the jug turned sour enough, or the dough felt done. When she passed, most of it passed with her, and she never wrote a word of it down. But I stood at her hip and watched, and a thread of it lives in my hands yet. So here's my challenge to you, and it's the reason I set this down. Pick one, just one, off this list, and go do it this week. Soak a chicken overnight in buttermilk, spray your squash, or crumble cold cornbread into a cold glass, and eat it slow with a spoon the way she did. Do it by feel, not by the clock. Then come down to the comments and tell me. I want to hear about her, whoever she was to you. What did your grandmother do at her stove, or in her garden, that she never wrote down anywhere, that you only carry because you were lucky enough to stand and watch? Whose was she, and what county did she cook in? Gather some of it up now, while there's still somebody left to ask, because that's the point of all this. It lived in one woman's hands at a time, and one funeral at a time. It slips off these hills for good. What dies is the hands, honey, not the recipes. If this stirred something in you, if it called up somebody you loved, do me a kindness and hit subscribe and stay for the next one. There's a world of this we haven't counted yet.